UNM men's basketball coach Richard Pitino has decided to leave the university and take the head coaching job at Xavier. The report card for the 118th Congress has been sent out, and we review how New Mexico's Congressional Delegation did. 3 student biologists are working to repair a burn scar in the Bosque after a fire in 2024. And NA3HL New Mexico Ice Wolves head coach Darren Banks sits down with me to discuss his team's journey as they get ready to compete for the Frasier Cup. From the Albuquerque Journal, this is the leading news. I'm Gino Gutierrez. It's Wednesday, March 26th, and I'll have more on those stories in a few moments, plus a look at Albuquerque's weather forecast on the other side of this break.
This episode is brought to you by the Kirtland Partnership Committee. For 30 years, we've been dedicated to supporting, growing, and preserving the Kirtland National Security Complex. We work tirelessly to enhance military readiness, foster community partnerships, improve quality of life, and promote economic development right here in New Mexico. Join us in our mission to ensure that Kirtland remains a cornerstone of national security and a key provider of quality jobs and investment for all of Greater Albuquerque. Together, we can make a powerful impact. Kirtland Partnership Committee, proudly shaping the future of our national security for 30 years.
Richard Pitino, head coach of the University of New Mexico men's basketball team, is leaving to take over the head coaching position at Xavier University in the Big East. Pitino expressed excitement about coaching in the prestigious conference, calling Xavier, quote, one of the great brands in all of college basketball. Pitino replaces Sean Miller, who recently departed Xavier to take the head coaching position at Texas. Xavier reportedly paid Miller $4.5 million per season, while UNM had offered Pitino more than $2 million in an attempt to retain him. However, he ultimately decided to accept Xavier's offer. Before Pitino's hiring, former Xavier coach Chris Mack was in discussions with the university about returning, but decided to remain at the University of Charleston instead. UNM athletic director Fernando Lovo confirmed that the school had made an aggressive retention offer to Pitino and had begun a national search for their new head coach. Pitino, 42, had recently led the Lobos to their first NCAA tournament win since 2012. He was hired in 2021 after being let go by Minnesota and turned around a struggling UNM program, culminating in a 27-8 season, a Mountain West championship, and a tournament victory. His departure came on the same day that star junior guard Donovan Dent entered the NCAA transfer portal. Pitino had been linked to several coaching vacancies in recent years, including Louisville, Virginia, and Villanova, before ultimately choosing Xavier. His buyout at UNM, originally $750,000, was reduced by 50% due to a contractual clause triggered when former athletic director Eddie Nunez left for Houston. A new report from the Nonpartisan Center for Effective Lawmaking has ranked New Mexico's congressional delegation based on legislative effectiveness during the 118th Congress. The report found that Senator Martin Heinrich is more effective than the average senator, while freshman Representative Gabe Vasquez exceeded expectations. The center evaluates lawmakers based on 15 metrics.
Basically, they're looking at how far the lawmakers' bills made it in the legislative process and how substantive the bills were.
My colleague Kathy Cook covers the federal government for the Journal.
Because sometimes Congress people introduce bills that are like renaming something. Those are usually called commemorative bills. And so while that might be valuable to a community, it's not especially substantive. So those are weighted less heavily than bills that actually change policy and make things happen.
While standalone bills have decreased, many are now incorporated into larger omnibus legislation, according to the Center's co-director, Alan Wiseman. Heinrich, who was in a competitive Senate race last year, ranked as the 11th most effective Democrat in the Senate. He introduced 62 substantive bills, 3 of which passed the Senate and 2 that became law. His legislative focus included public lands, Native American issues, and agriculture. Notable bills included the Good Samaritan Remediation of Abandoned Hard Rock Mines Act and a law renaming a VA clinic after a Medal of Honor recipient, Hiroshi Maimura. In the House, Vasquez was one of the 12 first-term representatives who exceeded expectations. Ranked 50th among House Democrats, he focused on defense, Native American affairs, and public lands. He introduced 26 bills, with one becoming law as part of the National Defense Authorization Act. His Rural Installation Job Protection Act was also included in that legislation. Other members of New Mexico's delegation met expectations. Senator Ben Ray Lujan ranked 38th among Senate Democrats, while Representative Teresa Ledger Fernandez and Melanie Stansberry ranked 66th and 144th among House Democrats, respectively. Ledger Fernandez was notably 16 times more effective than the average average House Democrat on Native American issues, though none of her bills passed. The report highlights both experienced and emerging lawmakers shaping legislative agendas while adapting to a Congress where much of the work happens behind the scenes through collaboration and compromise. In June 2024, a half-acre fire devastated the Poco Loco River Trail in Albuquerque's Bosque, leaving behind charred trees and disrupting the area's once thriving ecosystem. The lush cottonwood forest north of Rio Bravo Riverside is now filled with dead trees, blocked pathways, and the absence of birds that once filled the air with song. Despite the construction, hope remains. 3 student biologists, Mara Hearn, Laura Nurenda, and Elena Rosales, are working to restore the burn scar through the city's open space division. Their efforts include removing invasive species, planting native flora like willow and cottonwood trees, and monitoring soil conditions to encourage regrowth.
There are a lot of flora and fauna that used to be there that aren't there, and so what those 3 student biologists are doing is they're trying to repair that natural ecosystem back to what it was before.
My colleague Nikayla McClellan is a reporter at the Journal.
Or at least replace it with something similar to how it was affecting it previously to the fire.
Recognizing the increasing threat of fires due to climate change, the team emphasized the importance of conservation and adaptation. Their work also extends beyond the forest as they collaborate with the Ancestral Lands Youth Conservation Corps to train younger generations in restoration efforts. Signs of recovery are already visible. Green shoots are emerging, wildlife is slowly returning, and new plant species have taken root, an encouraging indicator of renewal. The biologists remain hopeful, seeing their work as part of a larger mission to support and preserve New Mexico's fragile ecosystems. When you think of the sports landscape here in Albuquerque, you don't often think of hockey. But the NA3HL New Mexico Ice Wolves are looking to bring a championship back home to the Duke City as they get ready to embark on their quest for the Frasier Cup through a round-robin tournament that'll culminate in a semifinal and a championship game on Sunday. With more on their season and the journey that's led them to this point, I'm now joined by Ice Wolves head coach Darren Banks. Darren, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Gino. I'm excited to be on the podcast.
So, Coach, as we kind of touched on at the top of this interview, Albuquerque is not your traditional hockey market. When most people think of the desert, they don't often equate it with ice or anything of that nature, but the NA3HL New Mexico Ice Wolves have had a presence here in Albuquerque for the past 3 years, and I was hoping you could provide our listeners with a little bit of a recap of your guys' history since you planted roots here.
Well, the first year, we technically weren't an expansion because we were the Oklahoma City team. And it ended up being more of an expansion because none of those players came over from that franchise. And so we inherited the assets and those sorts of things. But from there, it was kind of a mad dash in the summer. We got started at the draft, and a lot of teams had already been through their tender process. Tender process happens from January until the draft, which is in April. And so we put a team together. We were excited. We didn't know how it was going to go. We had some good players, some really good 20-year-olds that decided to come in with that team with Evan Axel and Ryan Kerr and Eric Larson and Chagovets. And so we had a little bit of a culture coming in, and that was the first year, and we've just grown year over year from there.
And as you mentioned there, Coach, it was a very unusual start to the franchise's existence. Obviously not an expansion team, but an expansion team in the way you guys had to build them. And the interesting thing is that in the 3 years of existence that the team has had, you guys have made the postseason all 3 years. You've made it to the division finals in all 3 years of your existence as well. And this is the first time you guys have qualified to compete for the Frasier Cup. You're in St. Louis right now getting ready for those games. I'm curious though, when you guys first started in those initial days, when you had to build your team in a matter of months, could you have ever imagined you guys would have this kind of success?
No. I mean, the first year that we started, it was just, we were trying to have a team on the ice. And so to have the success that we've had and really just the progression of the players that we've had, and you can see it in the call-ups and those sorts of things. But yeah, really, it was, I would have never dreamed that the team would do as well as it has. And, that's a credit to obviously the organization and the billets and our ownership, all of the coaches there from Coach Danford to our assistant to Gilbert to our goalie coach Elliot Hogue. Everybody puts a lot of time into this, and it's been pretty remarkable to get off the ground running. And I think it was a really important thing that first year to kind of have that upset run that we had, because it gave us a little validity.
And Coach, now that we look ahead to what you guys have in front of you, qualifying for the Frasier Cup, you guys are the 6th seed, which is the wild card in this tournament. But you're really sending a message to your players players that they deserve to be in this tournament. They deserve to have a chance to play for this championship. Can you give us a little bit of insight into this group and kind of your guys' journey that has culminated to this opportunity?
Well, the way the league works is the team that loses in the division final with the best regular season record, they move on as the wild card. And it gives you a motivation, in the regular season, you want to play well. You have to win an opening round. So I really like the rule that way. And this team has gone through a lot of adversity. And, at the showcase in December, we had co-captains. And so Zach Wentworth, who was a mainstay on this roster for 3 years, he received a call-up to a higher league. We had another player receive a call-up, and we haven't seen those players again. And so when you lose your captain, there's a lot of guys that have to fill those roles. There's been some other things that have happened during the season that, kind of stay in the locker room and adversity that we've gone through. And, it's a group that every day comes to work. And a lot of people have kind of noticed that we have a lot of fun, and we do, because it doesn't feel like work when we get there. And we've gotten better every day. And I would say the back half of the season, it's really showed in our style of play that, we're a good hockey team. And, with the way the rules work in this league, and with as much as we've progressed and our ability to stand up against Louisiana and the Brahmas, and we're a team that deserves to be here, and we're excited to be here.
And as we look at the two teams that you guys will be taking on in the opening round robin segment of this championship tournament, it's the Helena Bighorns and the West Bend Power. Those are perennial playoff teams in the NA3HL and stiff competition, I would imagine. What are you expecting to see?
Well, we expect these teams to hunt. They're both very aggressive hockey teams. They're West Bend, the team that we play on Thursday. They're really fast and skilled, and both of these teams have experience at this event. And so it is a championship series, but it kind of feels a little bit like a tournament with the round robin to the semifinal to the final. So I think having experience helps them. But the big talking point for us is first off, we deserve to be here, and second off, it's just hockey. You go in with a game plan. You be as prepared as you can be, and then we go in and compete, and the game doesn't change. The noise around it does, for sure. There's a lot that's here, but yeah, both of those teams they're really well coached, really good teams, and it's fun to be in a tournament where you're playing against the best.
And last question before I let you go and get back to film study coach ahead of the contest on Thursday. I know in a junior hockey league, it's a lot about developing these players, getting them ready for the next level. Obviously, your first priority in this tournament is you want to win the Frasier Cup, but putting the championship aspirations aside, what does success in this tournament look like for you?
Well, I think for our program, we want to advance as many players as we can to the next rung of junior hockey or into college hockey. And over the last 2 years, every age-out player that we've had is playing college hockey, whether that's NCAA or a good level of ACHA. And that split is about 50-50 for those leagues. And then we have had so many guys move up to the North American League. I think as of today, we have about 8 players from our roster, either last year or this year, that are playing in the NA full time. And, when half of your roster is getting moved up, it's a thing to really be proud of. So, and really, it's just the work that those guys put in. And, I would say the success for us out of this tournament, outside of the championship, is that these guys leave here and leave our program a little bit better people, really hard workers, and they have success at the next phase of their life. I've just loved being a part of this team every day, and getting here. This feels like this is where we're supposed to be, and it feels like this is the right send off for this group and what they've done this year. Where in the past, you don't always get that, and so obviously we're here and we want to win the Frasier Cup. But however this goes over the next couple of days, it just feels like a good send off for a great hockey team.
Well, the Ice Wolves are set to start their Frasier Cup round robin play on Thursday. The game will be at 3:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. NA3HL New Mexico Ice Wolves head coach Darren Banks with his team's journey to this point, their aspirations for the tournament, and what success will look like for them. Coach, thank you so much for joining me.
Awesome. Thanks, Gino.
If you like hearing all of the latest news from the Albuquerque Journal here on the Leading News, consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal. You can check our show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription and keep up with all the latest news from New Mexico's leading news source. In other headlines, Pack Your Max, a food spot celebrating New Mexican culture and cuisine, has opened at Kirtland Air Force Base Eastside Gym on Monday. The eatery will offer healthy options like juices, protein shakes, cold brews, and fresh meals, catering to both gym goers and those looking for a quick bite. The initiative, which began in fall of 2023, is expected to create 4 to 5 new jobs initially, with potential for expansion. Now taking a look at Albuquerque's weather forecast. Today you can expect mostly sunny skies with a high near 81, and this evening isolated sprinkles before 9 p.m., mostly cloudy with a low around 48. To keep up with all the latest news from the Albuquerque Journal, you can visit our website at abqjournal.com. I'm Gino Gutierrez. The leading news will be back tomorrow.